Yeah, because you gotta keep it people. I'd like to welcome all Rotarians in the room and on Zoom. My name is Steve Sperling, your club president for this Rotary year. Each month, Rotary highlights a theme, and the theme for May is youth service, as is what we're going to be talking about today. And as you know, President Francesco Areza has highlighted the theme Unite for Good. And we have Bill who's going to help us with the four-way test today. It's stand and join us in Iowa.
Four-way test. All the things they say or do, first is the truth. Second is the very law. Third will build goodwill and friendships. Fourth will be beneficial to all concerned. And fifth is high.
And if you could remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You see it.
As you can see, our Happy Thoughts goal is, we are approaching our goal. Our total right now is about approximately $723 as we continue our journey towards that $1,000. And John, okay, so we had $4 extra for the contributions to round it off to $20. And so today, is there anybody that wanted to just share a happy thought? I think it's
got $1 in, but I'll say mine last. I'll give everybody a chance. Dave? Oh, Laurel's pulling up.
Thank you. Oh, my happy thought is on Sunday, my husband Darren and I get to give away the hundreds of flower and vegetable plants that we start early in the spring in our greenhouse on purpose to give them away to friends and family and neighbors. And it's our annual plant giveaway. And the tomatoes are getting pretty leggy, like they're so tall. They're so ready to be in the ground, but that plant giveaway is on Sunday. So swing by. What time?
Early.
At noon. That's when it starts.
Excellent. Anybody over here? Back behind Randy.
Rochester Fest starts in 14 days. June 23rd to the 27th. We'll be hopefully giving a presentation and educating on what's going on here. We've got 85 different events going on that week right now. We need about 400 volunteers. So if you're available that week, please let me know. Star attraction will be Dave and his band playing at Rochester Fest. Right, Dave?
That's right.
On private. Rock bottom. Thank you.
Rockstar, all right. And mine is yesterday I celebrated my 30th anniversary at Mayo Clinic, which really what that really means is that I maximize the pension plan and I get more matched. But many of you will say that's a financial advisor, but I never did. All right, Colin.
I would say, Frank, my financial advice, it's time to retire. I get the post bulletin and I saw your piece in the paper about the seeds. And I thought, hey, I know that lady, but I didn't know that about you. So cool. My happy thought is it's Mother's Day on Sunday. And my wife said to me, well, what are we doing for Mother's Day? And I actually have a reservation at Blue Duck on Saturday at 5:30. So I beat my wife to ahead of all of you guys out there. I'm sure you're doing something for Mother's Day.
Oh, absolutely.
Set the bar pretty high.
Okay, going once, going twice. Thank you, everybody.
Thank Frank for doing that for Happy Bucks. On a more somber note, I don't know, if you read the Post Bulletin, but there was an obituary of Rotarian, Bill Ayler, and so we have an obituary to share. On Rotarian, and Dave's gonna share that with us.
So as you all know, Frank Allen, yeah, Frank, there he is in the back. And I and George Allen and others were all Eagle Scouts. And I can tell you that in the early years of my scouting career, Bill Ayler was just an outstanding leader of Game Haven Council here locally. So I'm going to go through his obituary. He was also a wonderful Rotarian. As you'll see, he was not only president of one club, but 3 clubs. So special guy. Bill Ayler died on May 1st, 2026 at the age of 95 at his home in Naples, Florida. He was born June 16th, 1930 in St. Paul, Minnesota, to Harry and Sibylla Ayler. Bill attended school in St. Paul and graduated from McAllister College in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1952. Following his graduation, he married his McAllister classmate, Judy Davis of Wadena, Minnesota, and began his career with the Boy Scouts of America in the Dakotas, in Texas, and then in Rochester, Minnesota, where he was the exec for Game Haven Council. Midlife, Bill changed careers and began to work at New York Life, eventually retiring as a trainer in the St. Paul General Office in 1994. On retirement, Bill and Judy moved from White Bear Lake, Minnesota to Naples, Florida. Bill and Judy celebrated 70 years of marriage on August 23rd, 2022. He devoted time and talents to Rotary and the Presbyterian Church. He served as president of the Rochester Rotary Club, the St. Paul Rotary, and the Bonita Springs Rotary. And he was an elder at the First Presbyterian Church in Rochester and the Vanderbilt Presbyterian Church in Naples. He was diagnosed with polio at age 3, but with the help of heavy metal leg braces, he became an Eagle Scout, a swimmer, a 10-mile hiker, and an excellent dancer. He remembered everybody's names and taught that skill to others, was welcoming and cheerful to family members and strangers. Bill is survived by children, Bill Ayler of Minnesota, Reverend Nancy Ayler of Iowa, Thomas Ayler of Tennessee, and grandchildren, Rebecca, Stephen, and Lucy Swanson of Minnesota, a recent granddaughter, Holly, and great-grandchildren, Emily, Anna, Leo, and Kate. And he was preceded in death by Judy on December 21st, 2022. So if we could take a moment just to remember Bill. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Dave. And there were no other guests today besides our speakers, so drop the hook for you. I want to congratulate all of our members with May birthdays and anniversaries as listed on the pre-meeting slide. Now, I know some of you aren't paying attention to those pre-meeting slides, so you might miss your own birthday. Are there any announcements today that haven't already spoken to me? Okay, we'll go through a few of them. Before we do that, though, I want to send around the sign-up sheet again for the next meeting is May 14th. So we want to just remind people that the Jeremiah Cook for Kids dinner is the let's see, that was May 19th. And signups are already out in the moccasin flower. Lori's really on top of things as usual with getting those in there. And right now, I believe the dinner service is already covered, so they're just looking for people to supply food, and so that's still available. The next one is we're going to remind people there are signups on your tables. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about the volunteers for the ride. It isn't listed in Club Runner. Again, thanks, Lori, for doing that with the Moccasin Flower. And the link is right there. You just click on the link and the whole schedule appears in front of you. Right now, we have the rest areas covered, registration covered, cleanup and setup and takedown covered. But where our needs are really the simplest jobs. And the simplest jobs are Wayfinder, which it's not a high skill level, but you have to be able to point and say, go that way. And then maybe cheer for the riders as well. Cowbells are welcome for that job. The second thing is a SAG driver, and that is a good one for your family members or friends who don't want to stand still. They can just drive in the car. You just drive the route, and the responsibilities are very simple. If a rider is struggling or stopped, you can stop and aid them. It's also for if they need a rest, you can take them to the rest stop. You don't have to know how to change a flat tire. You don't have to know anything about bikes really, but just it's more for safety. And I can tell you I actually got this fact from the head of bikemn.org, which is the current organization that runs all the bike routes like this in Minnesota. And they said that the riders take advantage of that SAG wagon hardly ever. In fact, in 5 years, they've had 3 people take a ride in all those years in Minnesota. So it doesn't happen very often, but it does provide a sense of security for the riders to know that that's an option they needed. So the volunteers for SAG drivers, we're going to go out, a few of us, and drive the route tomorrow morning. If anybody wants to come along with us, it's just we're going to check the route for potholes, any areas that need any branches that are down from a recent storm or anything like that. We'll be meeting at Old Abe's at 8:30 in the morning tomorrow, and heading out. We'll probably be finished up by hopefully noon or a little bit after. That's all for that one. Reminder that White Oaks Park is having its cleanup on May 20th. It will be, well, John, I think you were the only one there last month, right?
Only one where?
To White Oaks?
No, you were there.
No, I didn't go last time.
There were a couple people.
Oh, there were a couple people. Okay, so in any case,
It was really worth it.
yeah. Well, the first one of the season is already done. That's the hard one where all the winter trash and things like that accumulates. So it should be a pretty easy cleanup this month. I don't think there have been any rock concerts or anything like that there since last month. Another reminder is that there's a benefit for our exchange student, Eva, who's from Italy, and they're going to be serving an Italian 5-course dinner at the home of Alan and Julian Hansen from the Risers, and that will be May 30th. And it's a donation, but suggested donation for her trip. At the end of the year, at the end of the school year, the students have the option to go home, or they can go on a big trip on the East Coast. And I think just about all of them choose to do that. But this is their way for our club to help them financially with that trip. So please be cognizant of that. They have plenty of spaces open right now for up to 20 people, I think.
Bill's not here, but we have two exchange students coming this summer. We have two host families already. And one of them, we're gonna host a girl from Denmark, but we need two more host families from January through April. So if you have any interest, contact Mel or myself. It's a great experience to learn the culture from students from other countries. Absolutely amazing experience. So give some thought. I've done it 5 times now.
Yeah, we've done it previously as well, and I think Randy would probably agree that this is a wonderful opportunity to almost feel like you're visiting another country, but you don't even have to leave your own living room. You get to experience a little bit of the culture from wherever these young people are from. So I wanted to reiterate about the volunteers, the volunteer shacks. There was a volunteer sign up in the Mocker Floor, as we mentioned. And as we probably already know, there are enough slots there where we're going to have to depend on people outside of Rotary to help us with this. So please put the word out. We do have a lot of the important jobs covered, but Bill's going to do a real important job as Wayfinder, and there's one more spot that's a little tricky on the route. We just want to have probably Rotarians assigned to those 2 spots for sure. The rest of them are super easy to just, like I say, point and say, go that way.
Well, you will have to make it clear that the person doesn't have to associate with me at all. I'm gonna be a different spot. So you don't want to.
Well, that's a selling point.
That's fine. Nobody else.
I've never really liked you, Bill.
That's why I mentioned that, so.
Steve, how do you, I mean, if I sign up for one of those, how do I know where to go?
Oh, the details will be all in an email and everything. We've sent out an email once already, actually this morning. So, Bill, I think you probably haven't checked yours yet, but you're in there. And then as we get closer, we'll send more and more emails out detailing what each volunteer position has to be aware of. First one, I just wanted to get it out there. Wayfinder, it depends on how many volunteers we have. We have positions for up to probably a dozen Wayfinder volunteers, but we need the important ones covered first. And like I said, there's 2 main ones, and then probably big turns, important turns, up to 7 or 8 more. The trail will be marked, and there is an app that you can use that's called Rider GPS, and it will tell you where to go if you have that on your phone and as you're riding. But the course will actually be marked with arrows and signs from Davey's printing, and so we'll have that all organized. We're going to go out the day before Friday afternoon and mark the trail really well. Hopefully it won't rain.
Two questions. How about registrations for actual people biking? Can you tell me, because that's got nothing to do with us, right?
Well, I mean, we want to promote that, of course, but the registration right now, I believe, is 88 people. And that's probably about average for what we would expect for an inaugural ride. We'd obviously like to have 150, but people that are going to ride 50 miles, I should clarify that too, there's a 40-mile option. That's the important Wayfinder turn. If they want to do 40 miles, go this way. If you want to do 50 miles, go straight. So those 2 places, the one I mentioned, are the 2. So it's a 40 or a 50-mile option. And riders that are experienced enough to ride that distance oftentimes choose to wait closer to the ride itself because the cost isn't the barrier, it's the weather. And so they want to find out, oh, is it going to be a thunderstorm that day? I might just decide to sleep in that day if that's the case. So, but we already have 88 committed, which is pretty good. But we could have up to, 40 or 50 more the last week before, once we get the weather forecast a little more accurately. That's a good question. You had 2?
So I'm signed up to do a rest stop trailhead from 8 to 10. I don't know where that is, but does that give me time to go and be somewhere else from 10 to noon or no?
Well, these are flexible times, so that they're,
So the answer is yes.
yeah.
Those people that ride the electric bikes, is there a charging station halfway through?
People that ride electric bikes, it would be very unusual that you couldn't make it for 40 or 50 miles, even if you never pedaled once.
Mine does 60 miles.
Okay.
So I wasn't working, I'd sign up.
Yeah. Same with me, I'd sign up for the instant for this if I wasn't volunteering. But that's a good question. The problem is that the bikes have proprietary, each one has proprietary charging system, so we can't provide that. We could provide an outlet, that's all. They would have to carry the battery with them or their charging equipment with them. So it's not likely. Okay. Any other questions before we go on? And Sarah, would you be willing to introduce our speakers?
Happy to. Today, we have two people from Youth Frontiers here that is my pleasure to introduce. Just as a little background, for those of you who do not remember, back in November, the 3 Rochester Rotary Clubs sponsored a courage retreat for all 7th graders at Willow Creek Middle School. So about 300 kids, 150 of the class on one day and the other part of the class on the second day. It was an all-day wonderful experience hosted and given by Youth Frontiers, which you'll learn more about in just a moment. It was a very energetic day, a very interactive day, and I think it really had a meaningful impact. And one of the ways that we've been trying to keep that spirit that was learned the day of the Courage Retreat alive is we've invited all of the 7th graders at Willow Creek to nominate their fellow students for a Courage Award. Because at the end of the day, each student was asked to fill out a little card that committed them to a single act of courage, something they could actually do and feel good about, that they were carrying on what they had learned. Well, we kind of held our breath when we introduced this in March for the first time. Would the kids even remember what they had learned? Would they care about it? Wondered if anybody would nominate anyone. In March, 50 students nominated other students for the Courage Award. And so the teachers at Willow Creek then went through all of those nominations. There were some duplicates. There were some that maybe weren't all that serious. But out of the 50 nominees, they chose 10 students to be recognized in March. So we had planned to do it again in April and May. So again, in April, sorry, I wasn't all that optimistic, but I thought, well, maybe they're done. Maybe they haven't, maybe everybody who really could be recognized has been recognized. No, in April, 80 nominees were received. And last month, both Don Meyer and Colin attended the ceremony where those students were awarded a certificate from Rotary and recognized in front of the entire class. For many of these students, it may be the first time they've ever received recognition for something from their peers. And as each student is recognized, the teachers read just a little sentence or two about what was their act of courage. And it may have been something as simple as, I sat with somebody at lunch that I didn't know. Or I for the first time felt comfortable kind of outside of my group of people, noticing that we could include someone else. So simple things, but things that really stick with the person. So we're going to do this one more time in May. Hope we recognize some more students. But I want to thank the 3 clubs for sponsoring this really worthwhile experience. And you're gonna learn more about Youth Frontiers here in just a moment. And thanks to Dawn and Colin. Colin attended a great deal of the workshop. Dawn had been involved in workshops in Iowa with a school district that he had helped support before. So there are people in this room that have had some firsthand experience. So my intro keeps closing out here. So let's see if I can open it up again. Let me introduce Cory Piper and Maddie Lenarz Hooyman. We're thrilled that they came from the Twin Cities today to talk with you. Cory serves as the Vice President for External Relations at Youth Frontiers. They're a Twin Cities-based nonprofit that partners with schools and community leaders to create experiences that inspire character, community, and civility. Cory oversees school relations, marketing and communications, and donor relations divisions at Youth Frontiers. Cory's leadership background is in higher education, serving more than 25 years at St. Catherine's University and as Dean of Admissions at the College of St. Benedict and St. John's University. She joined Youth Frontiers last summer. And Cory was with us both days of the retreat, and that was a great experience. Maddie is an experienced facilitator, and believe me, the facilitators are the people that make this program come alive. There were 3 facilitators the days that we worked with Youth Frontiers, just people that can relate so well to the kids and get these concepts across. So altogether, Maddie has 14 years of work leading and developing programming for participants of all ages. She currently is the Vice President of Programs at Youth Frontiers, so she oversees the delivery of Youth Frontiers' mission, aligning efforts and teams across various program offerings. During her time at Youth Frontiers, Maddie has led training, people development, performance coaching, and employee engagement. She's a proud graduate of Loyola University Chicago, and she leverages her background in theater and social work to inspire individual growth and foster positive workplace culture. So please join me in welcoming Cory and Maddie.
Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. We are so excited to be here. And before I hand the mic over to my partner VP, who is our expert matter subject person, she will tell you all about our incredible programs at YF. We just come with gratitude. We absolutely appreciate our partnerships that we have had over the years with Rotary clubs in Minnesota, in Iowa, in Nebraska, in Wisconsin. And I had a blast hanging out with many of you, I recognize, and others from the other 2 clubs on those 2 days. It was fabulous. So thank you so much, and thanks for having us. Quickly, I have to tell you, I feel very comfortable in a room of Rotarians. I was a youth exchange student through Rotary circa 1987. Wow. Right. Can anyone tell me what 1987 also is an important time for Rotary internationally?
Well, women were.
Absolutely. It was the same year that women were allowed to join Rotary. Not to brag, I've been to Rotary headquarters in Evanston, Illinois. I went to Finland for the year 87, 88. One of the best, incredible experiences of my life. I went with an open mind. I'm from Okoboji, Iowa, and that was something really unusual at that time to do something like that. I joined the women's soccer team.
Was that a university exchange?
University of Okoboji, that's, you know the area, I like it. We need to talk. I joined the women's track and field teams. I joined a traveling women's volleyball team. I had never played soccer, but I was pretty athletic, so they made me the goalie. I brought my clarinet and I played in the community band. I loved it so much. I lived in a small town called Toivola. It was wonderful. My host families came to my wedding. I love Finland. I've been back a number of times. I was then blessed, which I couldn't believe, to be named a Rotary Ambassador Scholar for graduate study. And I got to go to the University of Amsterdam for graduate school in communication science. Loved it. Have spoken to many Rotary clubs. In fact, when I was in Finland, one of the requirements back in that time was to give a full presentation in that country's language. So I did that in Finnish, and it was really a mountaintop experience doing that. The trips that Rotary took us in that year, we got to go to Russia and to Lapland skiing. Again, phenomenal. And when they say when you have a Finnish friend, you have a friend for life, and that certainly has been true for me. Quickly, it continues. My oldest daughter, Paige, was a Rotary exchange student to Denmark. You know, the role you're not supposed to go visit. Well, I thought that didn't apply to me since I had been a Rotary exchange student. So I did go visit Paige and spoke to her Danish Rotary Club, which was phenomenal as well. When I turned 50 and my daughter, who had been in Denmark, turned 21, we ran our first marathon in Norway, and we went to Denmark, visited her Rotary families again, and we went to Finland as part of that trip, and my Rotary Club hosted a welcome home party for me 30 years later. And you wouldn't believe this whole entire room this size was completely filled. I felt so blessed to have all my friends come, my coaches, even my bank teller, you know, that Rotary, I think they still do it, right? A monthly, so I would go every month and pull out my stipend. It was wonderful. So all that to be said, I have a huge appreciation for Rotarians. Rotary has played a big part in my life, and I am deeply appreciative. At this point, I'd love to pass the mic to Maddie, who will share with you our history of YF and the value of our programming and the mission impact from educators to students to parents and to business leaders.
Thanks, Cory. The more you know. I did not know that about a finished presentation. That is incredible.
Maddie.
Oh, up here. Okay.
Eat the mic.
Eat the mic. Thanks, Colin. That's incredible. And thank you so much for the outstanding introduction. A lot of really helpful context. And I just want to echo Cory's words of gratitude to be in community with all of you and to say thank you for the lift and the love that you've poured into Willow Creek specifically over the past few months. And that's amazing that we've had so many community members honoring these students. So I'm Maddie. I'm the vice president of programs at Youth Frontiers. I've been serving the mission for about 14 years. I have worn various hats in my time, from coordinating logistics to sitting at the front desk to training the facilitators. And every day I just feel so energized and grateful to serve this incredible mission. If at any point I start to do this, just continue to wave me down, Colin, because as facilitators, we do hold the mic a little bit further down. So it's totally like learning how to ride a new bicycle. So bear with me. So at Youth Frontiers, we deliver programs that inspire character, civility, and community. Also want to highlight the year 1987. That is the year of Youth Frontiers founding. So we're heading into year 40. And in that time, we've impacted about 2 million students. So our just to give you a little bit of flavor, building off of what Sarah said, our programs have been described kind of like Aristotle meets MTV. And they are high energy, engaging. We like to keep the students moving. We have topic-based presentations, music. Kind of think about it like a summer camp packed into one day with an entire grade level. And students have the opportunity to share in small groups. So there's this built-in connection and energy that pulses throughout the day. We like to pride ourselves on speaking kid. We go about an hour, in the beginning of the program, just by having fun, building that right to be heard, playing games, keeping the energy high. And then we always like to say we sneak attack them with some of the content about an hour into the day. All of our programs are built around this idea that character matters, that it matters to take a beat to reflect on how we're showing up for ourselves and how we're showing up for others and how we're creating for young people positive school communities. So just to give you some broad strokes picture of our different program offerings, we have a kindness retreat for 4th and 5th grade. We have a courage retreat for 7th and 8th grade. And then respect retreats are our offering for high schoolers. And all of these programs have been designed to developmentally plug in to the age that we're working with. And educators often share that our retreats are pillars for their school culture and really give schools a framework and a common language to use moving forward into the school year. And like Sarah mentioned, all of our retreats end with students making commitments on the microphone at the end of the day. What is your action step? How are you going to bring more kindness, courage, respect into your life moving forward? So I shared that 2 million number, and sometimes at Youth Frontiers we like to say it's 2,000,001 because it's that reminder of the individual level impact. So with that idea in mind, I want to share with you a story about a student, a young man that I met on a courage retreat in Omaha, Nebraska, about 5 years ago, just to honor that idea of, yes, 2 million, but it's also the one. So all of our retreats begin the same way. Usually they take place in a large gymnasium setting. And we have high schoolers, small group leaders that volunteer in these programs that help us shepherd the students through the day. And they kind of earn us some cred with the students. And we begin all of our retreats with this Hooyman homecoming style gauntlet where all of the high schoolers line up and they welcome the 7th graders into the retreat space. They are giving out high fives, they're smiling. Basically, they're letting the students know that today is going to be a different kind of day right off the bat. So all of the high schoolers are lined up in this gauntlet, and I noticed this kid immediately. You can imagine different students react really differently to this moment. Some kids like come in out of the gates, like they've had like 10 Red Bulls. They're like, yeah, let's do this. They're ready to go. Some kids are like, wow, this is a lot of energy, right? And then there was this kid named Elijah that raced through, and this kid immediately just had this positive life force. He had this big, beautiful smile on his face, and he's immediately throwing out high fives. And you could tell some of his buddies were kind of thinking like, what is this day? But he earned us cred with the students. He runs up to his friends. He starts like busting out dance moves. We have a motto on retreats, the dumber you look, the cooler you are. So he really helped us embrace that. And he was the kind of kid who throughout the day was scanning the audience to make sure that everybody felt included, that no member of the class was feeling on the outskirts. So Sarah mentioned at the end of our retreats, we have an opportunity. We all circle up. We give students the opportunity to come on the microphone and share what is your commitment to courage, kindness, respect. So at the end of the day, we circle up, and I am not surprised that Elijah stands up because this kid was clearly a role model in his class, clearly just this bright light. But after 14 years of doing this, I still have moments where I get totally surprised by the words that are shared on the microphone. And this is what he said. He said, "Hi, my name is Elijah, and my act of courage is to make a change. I know a lot of you in here probably know me as some sort of class clown or whatever, but a lot of times I'm just making jokes at other people's expense." And then he looked across the circle at this girl named Brenda. She was quiet most of the day. She was new. He looked her in the eye, pointed her way, and said, "Especially you, Brenda. My friends and I, we make fun of you all the time. And I just want to say that I'm sorry, and I'm going to start making people laugh for the right reasons." This is a 7th grader. He sets down the microphone. I look over at Brenda, and it's like this enormous weight has just been lifted off her shoulders. Like you could almost hear her saying like, thank goodness I can finally breathe again. And for us retreat facilitators, this is just an average Tuesday. But you can imagine how these moments still kind of take your breath away, and the sacredness that you get to bear witness to these small moments of healing and community building and hope, truly. So like Sarah mentioned, we had the honor and the privilege of working at Willow Creek this past fall. And all of the reports from the Rotarians, the facilitators, the educators of the day who rated our facilitators 97% excellent. And I am just continually grateful and humbled by groups of humans like you that come together to make this happen. On the Willow Creek Day, and those of you who were there probably remember, all of those kids had the opportunity, just like Elijah did, to come on the microphone, make a commitment to courage. And I'm happy to share that per our 30-day post-retreat student survey, 83% of students surveyed shared that they'd actually lived out their act of courage. So you can see the positive ripples of community and how that can add up pretty quickly with all of those students stepping up to the plate. And I guess we just, in all gratitude, want to say thank you. And if you know of a person in your life, a young person that is in a Rochester area school, if you're really plugged into a school in the area, we'd just be honored to continue to partner with all of you for greater mission impact. And Cory, I don't know if you had any final nuggets that you wanted to share, if you wanted to do a quick little finish presentation.
I can only say hey ba, which is hello. Mita Kulu, how are you?
Like, hi.
We just in addition to what Maddie said, we have been serving the Rochester community since the early 2000s in our student retreats and educator retreats, and we love it here.
Yes.
Rochester is a strong community.
And we'll set up camp somewhere. We'll put out some program materials. If you have any questions, we'd love to connect with you about any of our offerings. Thank you so much.
You do the presentation in the school on a particular date. Who does the follow-up so that in April, the kids submit something? Are you involved in any of that, or how does the school get educated to do that?
That's a great question. So after the date of a retreat, educators can opt into a drip campaign. And basically what that does is via email, based on the day of their retreat, they'll get various reminders on different journaling activities, courage awards, best practices, things that we have found really extends the messaging of the day over the years. I think the challenge with that, as you know, is it's a challenging time in schools. There's a lot of chaos, and the follow-up is only as good as a champion in a school saying, I'm really going to take this on and ensure that all of these touch points are occurring. So you heard about Sarah's amazing efforts and many of you here, but it really does take champions from the school community and educators saying, hey, I recognize the value, and really to keep that messaging going.
And in addition to the curriculum that is sent out in that Maddie just alluded to, when we got back, the retreat facilitators just had a blast at Willow Creek. And so I asked them, the three of them, a few weeks later, could we do a quick video from YF headquarters as a shout out to Willow Creek 7th graders saying, hey, here we are, it's Preston and Elizabeth and John. How is your courage going? How are you following through with your pledge of how you can be courageous? So we sent that off to the teachers as well. So we're hoping that they play that to the students. At the end of each retreat, we have, students really like buttons. And so we have a courage button, a kindness button, a respect. We also do wisdom for seniors. Where the magic really happens is when we are in a school district or area, we want a student to experience kindness retreat at the 4th and 5th grade level. And then they get to look forward to the courage retreat at the 7th grade. Then they get to look forward to the respect retreat as first years in high school, 9th graders. And then they get to look forward to the wisdom retreat as a senior. So those value messages keep plugging along. The other touch point that is really, I think, important are the high schoolers that come and act as the mentors for the day. So they're the small group leaders. And oftentimes those students report to us how much they received, not only just serving the younger kids, and those kids can look up to those mentors, but what they received from attending the YF retreat that day on our core values.
I'd just like to echo the students from Mayo High School who volunteered to lead the small groups. They came in that day not really knowing what to expect. They received a little bit of orientation, and they just were awesome. And the students related to them so much better than, if I had been a small group leader sitting in front of 12 7th graders, that would have been a frightening thing. But anyway, that was a key aspect of the way they organize these retreats.
Yeah, and that's a really important point. We begin all of our programs with the training and orientation for the high school leaders. Sometimes we have parent leaders, sometimes it's community members. We've had Rotarians in the past, especially on our retreats with elementary aged. And then our facilitators huddle with the educators throughout the course of the program to learn more about the dynamics of the specific class and to tailor the messaging just a little bit to appropriately meet those needs.
Yeah, I'm always curious about nonprofits. You have an amazing organization, but how are you funded?
As Sarah indicated in my bio, I come from higher education, so I'm no stranger to revenue generation. At Youth Frontiers, what really appealed to me is, yes, very much supported by generous donors on one side. The other side is very much supported by earned income. So the cost of a retreat, half is paid by donor funds and half is paid typically by the school or a community partner, civic organizations that we work with.
Okay, thank you.
This is an unusually positive presentation, and I thank you for that. I have two questions. Can you tell us or tell me about the impetus or the founding of this 40 years ago?
Yeah.
And then my second question is, are you invited to schools or groups?
I can speak into your first question, the impetus, the founding. So, like I said, the year was 1987. Our founder and CEO, Joe Kavanagh, had been in youth ministry and was just starting to give keynotes in schools. And he, as sometimes happens on the individual speaker circuit, found himself in a town that he had never been to in rural Montana, a school that had invited him to speak. And he met a young woman named Diane. So Joe shared his story about basically why it's important to treat others with respect. And Diane approached him and said, "Mr. Kavanagh, I have classmates that are tormenting me. Can you do anything to get them to stop?" And he talks about it as one of those moments that stopped him in his tracks a little bit. And he was on the plane ride home and he couldn't get Diane out of his head, and just really thinking about what are we doing to meet the emotional needs of young people. And this is really at a time when social emotional learning wasn't really in the zeitgeist. So it was really a kind of radical idea that we would come into a school and have an experience where students got a day just to be with one another and talk about how to be better and treat others with respect. So that was the impetus, and he got together with some like-minded folks, some actors, some fellow youth workers, musicians, and they started to craft schedules for the day. And over the years, it got more and more operationalized. We used to say yes to everything. Yeah, we'll come talk to your youth group. Well, yes, we'll do a 12-hour retreat for your senior class. But over the years, it got more and more operationalized, systematized. The program is tried and true 40 years later. And we always tell our new facilitators to trust the program. And you could go up there, you could kind of belly flop, but your team of other facilitators, if they're following the framework, it's going to go pretty well.
Our program, and if you haven't seen it, and I know when I was sitting with Sarah last fall, it was either Sarah or Patricia, can't remember, said, when are they going to start talking about courage? It was in the beginning, like, let's get to it. Like, when are they going to start talking about courage? And I said, this is so well researched, so well curated. There's a process of building trust within this room. By the end of the retreat, all of us, including me, are literally sitting with tears running down our cheeks of these seventh graders being honest and open and vulnerable. What works in this shared experience is that it's a shared experience. So after this retreat, I heard you say that. We saw this. I heard you. Now I'm going to keep you accountable. And teachers report over and over and over that the hallways are different, that the lunchroom is different, that the playground is different. And we want to keep that going. So this incredible experience really sits with those because it's a shared experience. And even to this day, it's so great working for Youth Frontiers. I'll have all ages. Oh, I remember my respect retreat. I remember my retreat facilitators. We give out these fun stickers. I love your face, all sorts of things. They still have those stickers on their mirrors. It's a lasting, very impactful day. And again, we are, like Maddie likes to say, we're not the cure, but we're the vitamins, helping for those reminders of those basic, important values.
Yeah, thank you for your excellent presentation. 1987 was special for me too. I started my residency program at Mayo, and I met my wife.
Oh, I love that.
Two questions. One, what if you had a week with the student cohort? How would that be transformation?
How would that what?
How would that be transformational? And the second is the idea of reverse mentoring. So of course the senior supports the junior, but what are the things the junior transfers to the senior? And is that strategy, do you think it'll work in senior leaders, like government officials?
3 minutes.
Great, thanks, Colin. If we had a week with students, that's a great question because
So positive.
yeah, we might be looking a little more haggard. So that is often the question that we get. It's a day-long program. What are the limitations of that? And we actually have a kind of a programmatic answer to that right now with a more cohort-based, it's called Character Academy for Generation Z. And we're actually bringing smaller groups of young people together about 3 different times. There's a menu of options that they can choose from. And what we're finding is, if it's cohort-based, if it's smaller, it does obviously allow a greater level of depth, connection, relationship building. We find that it's works a little bit best with a little bit older participants who are ready to lean in versus a Gen Pop 7th grade class. You're going to get a lot of different characters in there. So if we're doing longer, more extended programming, it's leaders who are leading in that really want to do that character development work. I forget the second question, but also Colin is TikTok.
I think the question is, how do the younger mentor to the older? And what I'll speak to that and is that when we find that our older students, when they open themselves up to the younger students and their curiosity, their vulnerability, their insecurities, it helps them enrich them in their empathy.
Yes.
I just want to mention one other Rotary connection. Stuart Rassier, one of our members, was a Youth Frontiers leader in his like high school, college days, somewhere on the East Coast, and he knows Joe Kavanaugh. So sometime talk to Stuart. He was a real proponent of working with Youth Frontiers.
And I actually was introduced to Youth Frontiers as a fourth grader. And it's been part of my life ever since. Thank you.
Would like to thank Cory and Maddie for today's program and your wonderful presentation, and thanks for that. We will be giving a donation to the Legacy Project in your names. And before we thank our volunteers for today's program, I'd like to offer special thanks to all the Rotarians who have volunteered for the Rotary bike ride so far. So if you would please stand when I read your names. Colin Aldis, Don Meyer, Bill Wichter, John Woodruff is standing already, Dave Martell, Joseph Gaglia, and thank you very much for your list. Thanks to all volunteers and participants in today's program. John Woodruff, Sergeant at Arms. Male facilitator was Randy. And the 4-way test was Bill. And greeter was George Allen. Frank for the Happy Bucks. And there were no guest introductions. And Joseph for our AV and tech support. Our speakers, Cory and Maddie, thank you very much. And I'd like to remind Rotarians to go forth into the world and unite for good. We are adjourned.